Well, hey everyone, hope this video finds you well. This is for biology. We're starting chapter 17, Darwin's theory of evolution. And I wanted to talk to you today, just a brief introduction to 17.1. First off, what is a worldview? We're about to start a very big discussion, online of course, as far as our origin story. All these superheroes have origin stories. And we have an origin story too, but it differs based upon your worldview. What exactly is a worldview? Where a worldview is a way of looking at and explaining life in the world. A worldview typically addresses the big questions in life, such as how did we get here? Why are we here? Where are we going? Who's in charge? I like to add another one, seeing what's happening in the world right now. Why is there suffering? Why is there pain? All these questions are answered through our worldviews. And you and I may have different worldviews. Me and an atheist or an agnostic would have different answers to these questions. And so this is one of your assignments for this week. I want you to answer these questions based on your worldview in a discussion board. And you'll be able to find that on LMS. And I'll have more instructions for you later. The lessons plans will be posted on the class wall. So please reach out if you have any questions. This picture right here is a very morbid picture. This is the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. We're underneath a pandemic right now, COVID-19, but this one is the deadliest in history. It infected an estimated 500 million people worldwide, about 1/3 of the planet's population, and killed an estimated 20 million to 50 million victims, including some 675,000 Americans. This is from the website you see there. This flu was very different in the fact that it actually attacked strong, healthy immune systems. It used that to its advantage. So young men coming back from war died because of this flu, and it's a very tragic story. But this leads us into the topic, you're like, how in the world does this help us with evolution? Well, is the flu virus of 1918 the same flu virus that many of our school has been infected with this year? What about COVID-19? Is it the same as that one? And the answer, of course, is no. Flu viruses change from year to year. That's why flu shots are changed from year to year. Life changes. Life adapts as we progress throughout the history of time on that linear timeline. And so this leads us into the discussion of evolution. What is evolution? And so evolution is a thought that life changes based upon natural selection. There's different types of evolution. There's macroevolution and microevolution. This is really probably only discussed mostly in Christian circles. But macroevolution is when you get a single-celled organism giving rise to everything in life. For example, at Thanksgiving, you're not only eating with family, you're eating family. Everyone is related, everything is related, every living thing came from the same place, one single-celled organism. That's macroevolution. Microevolution is what we consider to be biblically accurate, and that's change within a kind. So you see the picture here, this is from Answers in Genesis. You can see that there may have been an original kind of cat, and that led to the various cat species that we see today. So of course this is a huge debate, not so much now of course because everybody is rightly focused on stopping this virus and stopping the spread. But Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." What do you believe happened in the beginning? The Bible teaches that God created living organisms, the galaxies, the planets, the stars, and he created human beings from dust. We did not evolve from some ape-like man according to the Bible. We were created. We were actually the crown of creation because we were made in the image of God. Therefore, every single human being has value, whether it be the 95-year-old struggling with COVID on a hospital bed or the 2-year-old laughing and playing in the backyard pool. There's value everywhere. There's value for every single human being based upon what God's word says. And so evolution is in the change in genetic DNA composition of populations over time. And it is observed. We see changes happening in life. It's important because We get to study and treat diseases. We need to understand where COVID-19 came from. How did it evolve? How did it jump from animals to humans? What happened there? That will help us treat it. Development of crops and industrial processes, making crops more resistant to disease or famine. Understanding the diversification of life, that's more of a atheistic point of view in the sense that life's all related. But you do need to understand what they believe, especially for future courses. So theory, an everyday speech, an untested hypothesis or a guess. For example, I have a theory that it's going to rain tomorrow. Based upon the weather, it's not. Evolutionary theory is not just one single hypothesis. You may have heard people say evolution is just a theory. I would argue that that's not the wisest saying to say because evolution is based upon a lot of science, a lot of laboratory investigations. Of course, some of it is umbilical, but some of it is not, and we'll discuss more as we go along. So what are our objectives for this 17.1 lesson? I would like for you to state Charles Darwin's contribution to science, and I would like for you to describe the 3 patterns of biodiversity noted by Darwin. So even before Darwin came on the scene, people were kind of thinking, well, life has to change somehow. Life does change. And so Darwin came onto the scene. 5 years on a ship. Do you think you could do it? 5 years, and it wasn't like a cruise line where all you can eat buffet. You know what I'm saying? It's not that. He spent 5 years on a ship. Darwin was a naturalist. He loved nature, and he's trying to understand how it all worked out. He was interested in geology, and so Darwin's observations showed him there were patterns to the diversity of life on Earth. Organisms were adapted to where they lived. And so Darwin actually was brought up in a Christian home. He actually studied to be a minister, which is kind of crazy to think about. But he misread Genesis. He believed that God created every single species immutable, which means unchanging. Everything was fixed from creation. But that's not, if you read Genesis 1, which I encourage you to do so, read Genesis 1, 2, 3, you'll see that God created species according to their kinds. God created kinds. And so what Christians argue is that there can be change within a kind. And so this is the ship that he sailed on, the HMS Beagle. There's been many scientific explorations and discoveries named the Beagle because of in honor of Charles Darwin. But a 5-year journey, and this is kind of what it looked like. The most famous place he went, you can see on the screen right here, is the Galapagos Islands off Ecuador. This is really where he started to formulate his ideas about life changing. And so aboard the Beagle, he came up with 3 things that your book talks about. He saw that species vary globally, locally, and over time. First off, species vary globally. He saw all these related cousins, kind of distant related, the ostrich, the emu, and the rhea. He saw that, they're kind of similar, but they're kind of different. He saw that species vary locally on the Galapagos Islands. The tortoises are very different based upon what island they are on. For example, on Pinta Island, there's like an intermediate shell. On Isabella Island, there's a lot of vegetation, and so there's a really large shell for protection. On Hood Island, the vegetation's higher, and so they have a longer neck. And so Darwin's like, well, this doesn't make sense. If God created everything so specific, how do I see this? What's going on here? And he wasn't thinking about there could possibly be change within a kind over time. He also saw that species vary over time. For example, the glyptodont and the armadillo related based upon fossil evidence, perhaps. And so this is also another homework assignment because the fossil record has long been exhibit A for evolution, atheistic, naturalistic evolution, which means there's no God in the picture. But I want you to go to this website. I'll show you a picture here on the screen of what it should look like. Pick one article, read it, and write a 2-paragraph summary on the article. Paragraphs should be between 6 to 8 sentences. I should just make it 1 paragraph, 6 to 8 sentences. I want you to post it in the discussion board due on Wednesday, okay? So when Darwin returned to England, he continued to ponder his observations. All these geologists were saying the Earth is really old. He was told that the Earth was really young. Christians are still split on that. There's brilliant people on both sides of that argument. But here's what really he kind of discovered. Species are not immutable, they change. Divergent species share a common ancestor. We would not agree with that biblically. We would not agree with that. So this is naturalistic evolution, trying to explain life without God. And then changes in species over time can be explained by natural selection. The differential survival and reproduction of individuals based on variations in traits. We'll talk about natural selection The strongest survive. There's a struggle for survival, and the strongest survive. I wrote a paper about the age of the earth in seminary, and I found this while doing research on it. Listen to this. Several sources indicate that belief in fixed species was the prevalent view at the time Darwin came up with this theory. In addition to Darwin's own comments and on the origin of species, Asa Gray confirms that the ordinary and generally received view assumes the independent, specific creation of each kind of plant and animal in a primitive stock, which reproduces its like from generation to generation and so continues the species. So the overall view, according to many people, was that God created fixed species. However, that's not what Genesis says, and many Christians obviously argue that point. So here are your assignments uh, for this week. Possibly, look at the lesson plans. There may be a few more in the lesson plans, but I did want to highlight these on this video, okay? I want you to read chapter 17, not too long. I want you to answer all the questions at the end of each lesson. These are due by Thursday morning at 8 a.m., okay? I want you to watch The Making of a Theory, Darwin, Wallace, and Natural Selection. It's a 30-minute video. And I'm going to give you a worksheet also attached in the assignments under the evolution unit on LMS. And this is also due Thursday morning. It's an interesting video. It's well done, high quality. You'll enjoy it, maybe. And then finally, we already talked about the fossil answers in Genesis. Lesson plans on the class wall. Study vocabulary for chapter 17. I will be giving you a quiz over vocabulary probably on Friday. No idea how this looks right now online, but until then, please be studying. So as always, guys, if you have questions or concerns, please reach out to me. We're going to try and make this as engaging and interactive as possible. But evolution and creation, a huge debate and a huge stumbling block for many people trying to believe the Bible. And we'll try to dive into it best we can. But until then, I hope you're well. I hope your family is well. And God bless you and your loved ones. I'll talk to you later.